Hey there, welcome to my studio. My name is Miss Renee and I'm here today teaching an art lesson with Young Arts, Arizona. And what I love about the piece that we'll be working on is that you can make it as simple or as detailed as you like. So it's wonderful for any age, and one isn't better than the other, right? So it's not about how simple or how fancy, but the focus that you put into it, the energy and the love. So I welcome you over to my desk to show you the piece as well as what you will need to set up. For today's lesson, we will be inspired by feathers. So what you see here is the two different mediums. We have watercolor, which is the paint base, and then a black marker, which we will go with detail over the top. So your piece will, of course, look very different from this, and that is perfect. That is what we want. And the materials that you'll need is, of course, a piece of blank paper, a paintbrush, a Sharpie, or some sort of fine point marker, because the finer the point, the more specific you can get with your details. And lastly, we'll need some watercolors. So the colors that I'm using, you can use whichever colors you like, but if you would like to follow this, you'll need a green, a blue, a yellow, and a brown. So we'll begin here with our paintbrush. Go ahead and dip it into your water. And we'll start with your first color of choice. So if you'd like to join me, we'll use blue. And as you start your feather here, go ahead and make like a nice curved bottom. And then as you paint upwards, the feather gets a little bit more thin, right? So it has a little bit of a point, but all feathers are a little bit different. Now to make it a little more interesting, you can come back and get more paint and do little dots here. And it might bleed to create some interesting shapes, right? And then we'll keep moving here. So come again and try another blue one. This one, you might make it a little bit softer. Maybe you just have a light wash. So again, round curved bottom, and then come up for a nice point at the top. And then again, you can come and maybe add a little dollop of something to contrast. Now I want to challenge you on one here. So as you create this next feather, take your imagination off the page. So we're going to paint here a feather so that it actually comes to the very edge of the paper. So it's almost like a half of a feather. And then run off the edge of your paper. And I'll show you here in my sample, this is what we did here, right? So it kind of takes the eye off the page and makes it a little bit more interesting in that way. Then again, you might come and add some color dollops. And let's try with a green. So if you don't have a green, that's okay. If you have a yellow and a blue, that's perfect. So most of you probably remember that blue and yellow make a green. So mixing any colors that you have on hand to create something new. And I also would offer that if you can make your wash of your feathers light, that will make it a little bit more contrasting as you do your Sharpie. So here I kind of went a little dark, but that's okay. But just try with different levels of contrast. And then again, for another feather, I want to invite you. See if you can come, maybe you come to the bottom of the page here, and you just kind of get part of the feather. So bottom and up. So it's, again, bleeding off of the page. And you can create your feathers as abstract as you like. Or maybe you are someone who likes to make things very crisp and clean. But I certainly encourage you to try different shapes. So trying to make some variability in each feather. No two feathers are the same. Just like they say, no two snowflakes are alike. So continuing here with colors, and you can make, a few feathers that are all the same color. Maybe you want to make every feather the exact same color. Maybe you want to make every feather a different color. You're the only one who knows what satisfies your heart. So I'm going to try another color of blue. And in this one, I'm going to create some lines. So see how there's some waves happening? Instead of making it a perfectly oval-like feather, there's a little bit of wave happening. And try to keep it light. Again, I went a little bit dark at the top, but I'm trying to keep it lighter at the bottom. And I want to challenge you again. So take your eye off of the page and create a feather that's just a little baby feather that's just barely saying, peekaboo, I'm here. I'm here to party. You might try some yellow feathers if you haven't already. And as you're painting your feathers, notice how you're breathing, working to keep your breath smooth and even. So a feather, as you can see, it's kind of this long, lean shape. A little bit of roundness at the bottom and a little bit of a slight point at the top. So I'll be adding another yellow one to hang off the edge of the page over in the corner. Again, taking the eye into a distant space. And then you might also do a little bit of a little circle, a little tiny, interesting dollop somewhere on your page to extend the feather. Maybe just one or two of those, or on every one. You choose. And then I'm gonna go with brown for my last set of feathers, and you can go with any color that you like. And with brown, since it's already a darker color, keep this one nice and soft so that it'll really show up when we do our marker over the top. So just a little, what's called a light wash. And as you're choosing, just kind of pick different spaces. Maybe some of the feathers are close together. Maybe some of the feathers have a big gap in between them. And I find that it's nice to have variability so they don't all, again, even the spacing, just like every feather is different, all of the spacing is different. And try different sizes of feathers. So maybe you have some very big feathers. And another technique for the more intermediate advanced is you can always come back with the same color and add those dollops and play here. But again, you want to keep some light wash so that when you come back to color, over the top, the black stands out. It has a pop to it. So you can see here how the black doesn't show up quite as much against the dark blue, but against the yellow it really stands out. So keeping that in mind, you know, how heavy you want to go with the quality of your paint. So you might continue for a bit. You're always welcome to press pause. Otherwise, moving on, we will take our paintbrush and go ahead and grab a good amount of blue paint. So somewhat thick and dark for this set. And you're going to take another either paintbrush or a pencil or your Sharpie, and you're going to just do little taps and try different spaces of your paper. And then stop and kind of step back and just take it in for a minute. Sometimes less is more. Or if you're someone that really wants to go to town, you can certainly play with this further. I like mine just a light wash of sprinkles. All right, so this is the phase where I invite you to grab a second piece of paper and do one more. So now you've learned a little bit about the mediums that you're using and the colors and how they mix. So come back again and try some here. So maybe again, starting with one just over the edge of your paper. Curve at the bottom, a slight point at the top, and bringing in some little pops of color. And taking a few of those colors, maybe some waves on your feathers. I find that it's really nice to do at least 2 pieces because sometimes we can put a lot of pressure on one piece. And so there's more freedom when we give ourselves room to play. And staying connected to your watercolor and just noticing how do the different strokes appear differently? How can you blend color in an interesting way? Maybe you just want to add a dollop of water to a piece to kind of make it bleed. You might even put on one of your favorite songs when you're painting to accompany you. Voila! Step 1 is complete. So as we allow our paint to dry, I'm going to read to you a beautiful visualization, which is from the work of Irene Dowd. And before we begin, I invite you to move any of the supplies off to the side, moving anything that just might be in your way, making you feel a little bit constricted, and invite your body to come into a space of ease. And as you're listening, you're welcome to close your eyes, or maybe just keep the gaze really soft and quiet with the eyes. And together here, we'll just take 3 breaths. So inhale through your nose, and exhale out of your mouth. 2 more like that, breathing in to your capacity and breathing out. Last one here. As you inhale, fill up like a balloon all the way to the top. Nice and plump balloon, and then hold the breath. And just like a balloon, when you release the air, you don't have to push it out. It just kind of releases. So as you're ready, release that exhale all the way out. You might keep your eyes closed or keep that soft gaze as you listen to these words. First, visualize your skull as being a large and airy, totally empty room. Scan with your mind's eye, not your physical eyes, from the base of your skull where your neck meets your scalp, along the smooth expanse of space around your head, all the way over your forehead to your eyebrows. If your skull isn't quite empty, repeat this process of scanning again. Scan with your mind's eye from the base of your skull where your neck meets your scalp, along the smooth expanse of space all over your head, all the way over your forehead to your eyebrows. When you get to the center of your forehead, between your eyebrows, visualize all the unnecessary, worrisome thoughts in your head, like breath or water, flowing out along your eyebrows to melt off into the ground. You might visualize the thoughts dripping to the earth. Visualize a flow outward from your nose, along your cheekbones, towards your ears. Let all the excess, unnecessary contents of your mind drip from your ears to the ground. The sockets for your eyes are very large and deep. gently closed eyes, not squeezed shut. Feel these gently closed eyes expand and fill the entire space of their sockets. Perhaps your eye sockets can enlarge even more. Don't try to see the space with your eyes. Just allow them to expand gently and rest in the dark, cool pools of space that grow softly in your head. Sometimes lightly resting your palms over your eyes so that your hands keep out the light allows the eyes to rest more easily. In the absence of light, the eyes do not need to strain to see. Taking 3 smooth, even breaths here. Feeling your body letting go of any extra tension and keeping your mind nice and quiet. All right, so before moving on to the next step, you want to make sure that all of your watercolor is dry. And if you don't have time to wait or you want to move more quickly, you can also use a paper cloth or napkin and just kind of blot up the excess water, and that will help it to dry. Okay. So please grab your fine point marker, and I'll share with you 4 different techniques of creating feathers, and then from there you can create your own however you like. So when starting your feather piece, you want to come to the top of your feather and just draw a line right down the center, and then extend all the way out to create a little tail for your feather. And in this first sample here, we'll start by making some lines for our feather. So as you start at the top, your lines will be small, and you just start at that center line and you drag it out. And in this first one, the technique is for you to create different directions of lines. Maybe some lines are short and some lines are long. So I want you to try different textures and also try to curve some of your lines. Maybe some of them are curving in and maybe some of them are curving down. And you can just be really loose here and not think about it too much. You can even bleed off over the edge of your feather so that you move into the white space. Short lines, long lines. And as you come down, of course, you'll see the feathers get longer, and then as you come to the bottom, they get smaller again. And then same thing on the other side. Just starting with those lines. You might have some gaps in between. Some of the lines might be short and long. Try to make some variability in this first feather. All right, and the second technique, we'll move on to another feather, will be dots. So again, start at the top, come on down, and extend out to the bottom. And even if it runs off the page, just go all the way to the end, as if in your imagination it would extend. And then we'll create some lines here with dots. So you can just kind of start at the center and dot your way out. And again, bring your dots over the edge of the color that you painted so that you are creating some dots in the white space. because as you can see, it looks pretty interesting to see contrast in both of the colors, white and whichever color you've painted with. And you can be loose here, they don't have to be perfect rows. Maybe you want to start to get a little more scattered. And then come to the other side and continue. Now you can either mirror what you did on the first side. So if you did a row, you might also do a row. And maybe this side is just completely different, just lots of crazy dots, not thinking too much. And we'll move on to the third technique of feather. So with this one, again, top to bottom, extend all the way out to create your stem. And we'll do straight lines, but these lines will be very organized and precise. So start at the bottom here, and as you draw, a little diagonal up with your line. And then again, another little diagonal up, and see if you can continue that and keep the same amount of spacing between each hair. And come over the edge a little bit into the white space. And then you might play with shortening them as you come up towards the top. So they become shorter, just like the feather becomes shorter. And then when you come to the bottom again, line up your lines and extend in the opposite direction like a mirror. And this feather, work to keep your lines nice and crisp and straight. All right. The fourth technique will have some contrast from side to side. So here you'll see these are all lines on both sides, all dots on both sides, and all lines. With this one, draw that line from top to bottom. And we'll create some lines at the bottom coming up. So we'll just do, say, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then the other side, 1, 2, and 3. Now, come to do dots and dots, and then line and line, and again dots. Right now, mixing those two, on one side do a line and a line, and the other side do dots. And then you might switch that, do a line on the opposite side, and then dots. So continuing here, you see where I'm going with this is we can do mix and match. And here we're giving some gaps between each segment. Leaving some space for the color to just be exactly what it is. All right, and lastly, if you have any extra color blotches on your paper, you can come over that with some dots to bring attention to it and give it some decoration. Maybe close together, far apart. And then please continue with these 4 techniques, and I invite you to expand on them. See how you can make them unique and make them specific to your style. And for the feathers that bleed off of the paper, again, you just imagine that it's there and you bring it all the way up to the edge. You can have some short feathers, maybe some long feathers. You might even leave some, just very simple, just the line. And as you're working, notice how you're breathing, keeping your breath smooth and even. My art teacher always used to say, "You're the only one who knows when the piece is complete." So take all the time that you need to give it any final touches, or maybe you want to start again in a new piece and continue playing with different color mixtures or patterns. And I would love to see your work. You can email me a photograph of your artwork. I'll share my email at the end of this video. And I'm wishing you a really sweet rest of your day or evening, wherever you're at. And I look forward to seeing you next time.